Okay, so first of all, with this new system, this is the first time you're going to have to create a sheet. So just click that plus there, and that'll give you a new sheet. You can also reposition these sheets anytime you want. If I wanted to get ready for week 7, for example, I'll just type in week 7 there, move it over here to get them in order. Oops, over there. Try that, and then you can click on any of the tabs to get that spreadsheet. So we're on week 6 random here, and I'm going to do 3 little simulations. I'm going to take you through the first 2. I want you to do the third on your own based on what we do on the first 2 here. I also have set up the chart already. I'm going to ask you to do that yourself here. Take those off. Okay, so first of all, we want to do 50 dice rolls. So a 6-sided dice. We want to roll a dice 50 times. We want to simulate that without actually going through all the motion. So Sheets and Excel have some nice pseudo-random number generators, and your readings for this week will show you the difference between true random and pseudo-random. There's 2 main functions you can call. The rand function, you would just go like this, and that will give you a number between 0 and 1. So if you wanted a random percentage, for example, a random proportion, I guess is better, this would be one way to generate that. You can also, of course, you could say 3 times, or let's say you wanted a number between 0 and 1/2. You could go 0.5 times rand. And now this number is going to be between 0 and 0.5 because it's going to get a number between 0 and 1 and then multiply it by half. So you can use this rand inside of a larger formula to do what you need to do. But what we're going to do here is the rand between. So we can name 2 integer values. It can be negative, that's fine. And then the Google Sheets will return a number that's one of those integers or some integer between those, and it'll be randomly selected. So for a dice roll, I want to go between 1 and 6. Notice that it is inclusive, which means we can get 1 and 6s, and I rolled a 4. But I don't just want to do 1 roll, I want to do 50 rolls. So I'm going to drag this down, and where am I going to go? I'm not going to go to 50 because notice that the first one was already taken, so I want to go to 51. And when I say the first one was already taken, I mean that first row has the word dice in it. So this gives me 50 dice rolls right here. But it'd be nice if I could capture them somehow. So what I'm going to do here is use a function called count. In fact, I'm going to use COUNTIF. So the normal count function would just count how many data values there actually are. I only want to count it if something in this range is a 1. So I'm going to select this range where I have these dice rolls, comma. So the first thing I'm doing is my range criterion. So I want it only if it equals 1. Notice how they have it set up here in the example. You could put quote equals 1 quote. As a shortcut, you can just put 1. That's fine. So I rolled 6 1s here. Now I want to drag it down. Notice I got 11 of each. Something went wrong here. Well, in this formula, I used the actual integer 1 here. I didn't tie it to any reference cell or anything. So what I might do, for 1, I could go through and renumber these 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the formula. That would be okay. Or I could tie it into the number in this cell. So let's see right there. Now when I copy down, and notice I do have to copy down again, if I click into this cell, it's giving me the range A4 to A53, and it's counting how many of these 3s that I have. Now there's something else that went wrong though, and we can see that if we select these. I want you to constantly question the data that you're working with here, find creative ways to check what you have. So I've highlighted these. The total number of 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6 should add up to 50, right? Let me pause there. Okay, if I go down here, I see that the sum is 47, and I realize you can't see that real well. Remember that you can click on these double arrows and get a range of statistics, descriptive statistics there. So something went wrong there. I'm going to go click in on a specific formula and see what's happening. So I'm counting the range A3, where's that? That's right here, down to A52. And I start to see what happened. When I copied this formula down, every time it did the range, it slid down a row, and I don't want it to do that. So how can I prevent that? Well, I can use dollar signs. If I put a dollar sign in front of the A, it will fix this column, which it's already going to do anyway if I'm copying down. So I don't really need to do that. It's not going to hurt anything, but I don't need to do that. What I want to do is I want to fix the row numbers. So in every case, when I copy down, I want it to go from row 2 to row 51. Now here, why am I not fixing the F2? Because I don't want it to be the same when I copy down. So here, I want it to slide down a row every time. I want this one to reference F4. I want this one to reference F5 to tell me how many 4s there are. And now if I select this, I get sum of 50, which is what I want, sum of 50 rolls here. And then I calculate the percent. So let me pause this while I actually do that. Okay, and so you'll figure out the formula there for percent. So what I'm asking, what percent of these 50 rolls were 1s? Well, I know that 6 of them were 1s, so what percent is that? You can leave it in decimal form or percent form. Either one is fine. I do want you to check them. So how would you check? You would select them and check the sum down here. What should the sum be? Well, the sum should be 1 if you're working in decimals, or 100 if you're working in percents. Okay, now names are a little bit different because we don't have a random function specifically that's going to call one of these names. So what we can do is assign everyone a number. And here's a neat feature. Let me just show you in case you haven't found it. So if I write the first 2 of a series, select them, and then drag down, it's going to capture the pattern that I'm using and continue it. So anyway, now ask yourself, you may want to pause the video here, ask yourself, what integer, what way could I use this random between function to randomly call these names? Okay, so what I would want to do is go between 1 and 14. And I want to do 200. Because we're using pseudo-random numbers, this is no big deal. Remember that one of the difficulties of actual random, true random, is that they're less efficient to create. Okay, so I have these names, and we know that Amanda now has been chosen 5 times, Amy was chosen 9 times, Andre was chosen 8. You might want to note that these numbers are not all the same. Stacy, poor Stacy, only gotten chose 3 times, whereas Ryan got a whopping 10 selections in our 200. And again, we do need to adjust this formula, so let me do that real quick here. Put those dollar signs in that. And let's do this, and let me double check there. That sum is 100. So it looks like I only went there we go. Now we're going all the way down to 200, and our sum is 200. Okay, so here we see some even bigger differences. Joseph and Ashley only got called 7 times, whereas Marlon got called 21 times. So I want you to calculate the percentages. But I also want you to keep in mind that this is, for our purposes, random. The reason that these numbers are so different from each other is not because we're using a pseudo-number random generator. We would find the same patterns, types of patterns, in a random number generator. This is randomness. This is the craziness of randomness in the short term. If we made this 2,000, 20,000, 200,000, we would start to see some more predictable things happening. And we're going to look at that in one of the activities this week. But for now, I want you to be able to just create these percents and go ahead and do this for the coins too. Figure out a way to flip a coin, to simulate the flipping of a coin. One other thing I want to point out, the random function and the random between in sheets are what are called volatile functions. So if I were to, let's see, what would be a good way to do this? If I were to somehow refresh this page, okay, my refresh button was hidden by the screen catch software there. So if I refresh it, notice what happens with the, remember that Joseph and I believe Ashley only had 7. Now suddenly Joseph has 17 and Ashley has 13. So what happened here? Because this is a volatile function, every time that you refresh the sheet or you make certain changes in the sheet, everything will recalculate. All the random numbers over here would recalculate. If you don't want that to happen, there's a couple things you can do. One, you could take these randomly generated numbers, cut them, and paste them as values. So you would do, let me just do this for just a small chunk here. I would cut, say I click over here, paste special, paste values only. So notice when I did that, these numbers all changed. These numbers will now stay the same. Even if I refresh the sheet and everything else changes, these numbers will stay the same because now they're just values, whereas these are actual functions. Okay, so if for some reason you wanted to do a random selection, but then you wanted to freeze that particular selection, you would just cut it, copy it, and paste it as values. But for this spreadsheet, you don't need to do that. Now, one thing you do want to do is create a visual. So let me just do that for one here. So I'm going to insert a chart. And I don't like that one. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to try. Okay, I was going to pause this and figure this out, but I think it's actually better for you to see what goes on in the process when I don't know what to do. So what I want to do is I want to create a histogram where the x-axis has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's bars to show where the heights show the counts here of each number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google here and type in histogram in Google Sheets, and I could watch a video here. I'm going to trust the developers at Google. Okay, it turned out the video was actually much nicer. This Gorilla Stats Jungle, I'll show you real quick. So I'm selecting out these, inserting chart just like I did before. The only thing I needed to do was use column F as labels, and typically we want these on the x-axis here. So here I have, I'm going to insert this chart, and I'll let you title it and everything, but you can see that I have these dice rolls. In my 50 rolls, 6 was the highest, then 1, and there was quite a bit of variance. It certainly wasn't a straight line across. And again, we're going to explore that more in the activity this week. Okay. Be sure to, by the way, be sure to read the list of things that I'm looking for in the chart instead of just absolutely copying what I have here.